The calls and texts are on that shortly, but I do want to talk about this subject. Millwall Football Club have banned a 13-year-old fan after he admitted verbally abusing Bolton Wanderers forward Marvin Sordell. Sordell said that he had been racially abused during Wanderers' defeat at the New Den last month. The South London club said that they would exclude the teenager for the foreseeable future, but would not impose a life ban. Instead, he's been offered a place on a club educational programme in the hope that the club, in the club's words, we can change his outlook on equality, racism and life. Now, look, I'm well aware, as you have, because we've featured it on this show, that there have been all sorts going on with football, whether it be the Kick It Out campaign, the abuse, the way the abuse is dealt with. But this is more fundamental, because now we're talking about children. And it's not just children at football grounds, it's children in the playground and what we as parents teach our children. That's why it's on the agenda today. There's no question that Millwall have dealt with it in any way, but appropriately, I'm trying to broaden it out. What do you say to your children? What have you heard children saying? If you're a teacher, how do you deal with it? And if you hear it next to you, if somebody says something next to you, a child says something, do you let it go and say, well, that's what their parents have been saying? Or do you directly challenge it? Are children born racist? How does it work out? 020 722 4000. Let's first go to Lord Ouseley, who's the chair of the anti-racism charity Kick It Out. Good evening to you, Lord Ouseley.
Hello, Eddie.
Thanks so much for talking to us. I've been looking for you for a few weeks now. You've been avoiding me. Has it all been sorted out quickly with the Kick It Out?
Would I do a thing like that? Why would I avoid you?
You're not the only person, honestly. You'll be in a big crowd.
I've been avoiding everyone. I've been taking so much stick.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that the common consensus is that the organisation got caught up in a row, essentially, between the players and the FA itself.
And their union.
Well, in terms of this, though, is it important that we separate this incident from the other incidents, or does this just make up part of football and racism and the way it is or is not dealt with? I think
why it's inseparable, it's part of life, it's part of society. Football is part of life. Going to football as opposed to as alongside any other form of entertainment, you're going to get people who take their prejudices with them, and hopefully they keep their prejudices to themselves and not play them out either in insulting other people or in other unacceptable ways. And clearly people do go to football and express themselves in the wrong ways, whether racist or homophobic or sexist or whatever, and they just have to know what is acceptable and what is unacceptable.
Well, I've been to kids' football matches. I've certainly been in the terror systems, not heard racist abuse, but certainly the kind of language that I would have a problem with if my child was there and their child is with them. Where do you draw the line?
Well, I think parents have responsibility for their own actions and their children's while they're children. And I've been to football matches. I've been guilty myself of saying the wrong thing, an inappropriate thing, at a time where you get very heated and it's clearly wrong, and you've got to be able to demonstrate to your children that that is wrong and that is unacceptable behaviour. If you're not doing it in the home, it's happening. When the Kick It Out campaign started, it was largely as a result of people like John Fashion who saying, look, I put up with all of this, but what breaks my heart is watching parents standing alongside their kids, and the kids are doing the abuse and the parents are encouraging them. Now, I think we've lessened that, but we can't say we've eliminated it.
I'm going to bring in my next guest now. Stay with us, Lord Ouseley. Adrian Hart, a former teacher and author of the Manifesto Club report, The Myth of Racist Kids. Good evening to you, Adrian.
Good evening.
Thanks very much for joining this. In terms of children there, is your essential thrust that children are not racist, cannot be racist?
I guess it is, because unless we are going to reduce racism to racial etiquette, then it's reasonable to say that kids are almost never racist. Racism means having conscious opinions about the inferiority or superiority of another ethnic group. For children, and this has been my overwhelming experience in schools, it's about kids grabbing onto usable insults, whatever they may be. That doesn't mean that adults shouldn't show firm authority, but we've got to get some perspective on this. Today in today's world, it's the rarity of instances of real racism that makes it so shocking to us. But that's a matter for the adult world. Children, on the other hand, have a habit of behaving childishly.
When I hear a child, I know, there are these 80,000 incidents in playgrounds and the like, and I know you have strong views on that. But when I hear a child talking about another child relative to his or her sexuality or colour, what do I do then?
I think, first of all, you've got to be age appropriate. So if they're kids of around 5, 6, 7, and bear in mind the vast majority of the recorded racial incidents picked up from schools are from that age group, then it's just straightforward. If it's in the earshot of an adult, you say, cut it out. If they're a bit older, then maybe you can sit down and it's a teachable moment. You start talking about what the words they've used actually mean. But none of that really means that children shouldn't have the right out there in the playground, or indeed in the high passion context of a game like football, to engage in unfettered peer interaction. It's important that they find out the consequences of their kindness, of their cruelty. But in a game like football, I think that we need to resolve these things informally. Of course, if a kid is insulting and uses racist language, it's an opportunity for adults to draw a line in the sand.
Well, and indeed, Lord Ouseley, that's actually what Millwall have done. They've taken this child, they haven't banned the child permanently, but they've engaged this child in an educational programme. I mean, what Adrian's saying is right, except football is so tribal, isn't it?
Well, it's tribal, but it doesn't mean to say that you have to accept unacceptable behaviour. And I agree with Adrian. I certainly wouldn't label any child a racist or a homophobe or anything like that. I think labelling is so bad. I think you've got to accept that as adults we have responsibilities, whether we're parents or teachers or just responsible adults looking on to challenge a young person and try and guide them in the right way. Yes, you're going to get robustness, competitiveness, and even abuse in a playground or on a football pitch by children as well as adults. But I think the appropriate thing to do is to engage with them. They're all capable of understanding what prejudice means and how you help them to overcome, or at least be aware of the fact that that sort of behaviour is offensive to other people.
Lord Ouseley, thank you very much. Adrian, I'll give you a final word on this, because, of course, we've been talking about influences mainly of parents. But goodness, anybody who's got a child at nursery or at school knows your child is also subject to the influences of their peer group. As a parent, give us some help. As a former teacher, how could we as parents tackle any inappropriate language used by our children?
Look, if it happens in front of you, then it's an opportunity to take the kid aside and talk to them, perhaps. You might just be saying, cut it out. But look, there's something different going on here. I say, in many, many instances, leave the kids alone. When they're out there in the playground, they need the freedom to work things out for themselves. All we do by elevating these issues into quote-unquote racist incidents is we're racialising their interactions between each other. And I think that's a really bad thing. Don't racialise these spats. It just makes things worse.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Appreciate it very much. Adrian Hart, their former teacher and author of the Manifesto Club report on the myth of racist kids, and also Lord Ouseley, who's the chair of the anti-racism charity Kick It Out. So I'd love to hear from you. When you hear children saying inappropriate things, what do you do? What have you done? Is it right to pick up this 13-year-old, put him on an education programme? Are children racist? And as a parent or as a teacher, a carer, how have you dealt with it and what have you heard? The number 020 722 4200. We'll be talking about that and Old Flo, the statue that is to be sold in Tower Hamlets after the news headlines read for us tonight by Jonathan Savage.